Hi. Well, I know I said I would do these things later after rush hour, but I think that's going to work. I'm really tired today, so we're doing it now because I am going to head off and stop doing things. I have had a really productive day though, so it's not like I've done nothing. But also today is I just don't have it in me to be funny and upbeat. The 18th is always a really rough day for us of every month. Today marks 11 months since Joshie died. And I remember before I lost my child thinking that, in the Jewish tradition, there's a period of mourning for a year, and at the end of a year, your gravestone is put in place and there's another service, and that kind of marks the official end of mourning. And I remember when a friend of ours died and we had that ceremony, thinking that that was such a good tradition. And even when Josh died, a lot of actually the Jewish and Hindu traditions of our friends really saved me. I'm just switching off some things so that we don't get oops. Like people sending messages and stuff all the way through. I remember thinking, and those traditions. So when our Jewish and our Hindu friends pitched in the days after Josh's died and said, like, you're sitting Shiva and we organize everything, it was a godsend for me. And I remember thinking that that was a really great tradition. But as 11 months later, I can't imagine that in a month's time, it will be the end of mourning for me. I can't imagine that I'll feel different in a month. Or certainly like going, oh, yay, well, that's the end of mourning, off we go. I can't imagine that. So, those things that you thought, before I lost a child, I remember thinking, but God, it's been a year since whoever died. But truthfully, for me, it's the blink of an eye. And if I close my eyes right now, I remember in perfect detail that last 2 hours of Josh's life and that trauma. But anyway, one of the things that Shannon and I have really talked about is particularly next month on the 18th, actually Chris will be at camp. And I really want him to be, this camp is at Sugar Bay, which is at one of the coastal resorts in South Africa. And it's really one of the highlights of most kids at those schools' time at school. So we really want Chris to go off and enjoy that, So we're not planning to do much on the 18th. And in fact, it's one of the things that we've been talking about is saying, but actually we'd much prefer to commemorate Josh's birthday in August each year than his death in January. One, because that's what Josh would have wanted. Josh would have wanted people to celebrate his life, not his death. And also just because that feels like something more joyful. Josh's greatest fear would be that the people he loved would not be okay. So, sorry. So, I want to talk about the things that he did. And some of the things, some people live an amazing life, and Josh packed in enough life in 15 years, 16 years, than most people do in 75 years or more. I was thinking yesterday how Josh and I took a trip. We went to Korea, and then specifically to the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea, and got to put a foot in North Korea, and just thinking like, nobody gets to do that, but Josh did it, And I think for me, instead of feeling down, what I've been trying to focus on today is all the amazing things that Josh inspired people to do, When he died, I wanted to repay the blood bank with the blood that Josh had used during his cancer fight. He used about, I can't remember the number now. I think it was about 25 liters of blood or units of blood in his fight against cancer. And I set up a challenge, and I'm immensely grateful and overwhelmed by how many people became blood donors, how many people have continued to donate blood. I still get pictures sent to me at least every week or so of people going another unit for Josh, and I think in the end we collected over 600 units, I've forgotten, of blood, and more than half of those came from people who were first-time donors. So that means not just that there was blood in the blood bank, but also that there are more people for the blood bank to call on. And especially at this time of year, you know, when Josh was first diagnosed, he was rushed into hospital and in ICU for a month because he had internal bleeding. And I remember the ICU doctor saying, we've ordered the blood, but in January, we don't know whether we will get it because everyone goes on holiday, and also South Africans are terrifically bad drivers. So there are lots and lots of road deaths and lots of accidents. So there's more than usual demand and less people to donate. So one of the things you can do in this holiday in Josh's name is donate blood. They do, even when you're on holiday at the coast, they have blood drives. You can do it. But that is one of the really good things that came out of Josh's death. There's people who have done charity runs. One of the things for me is the people who have donated to CHOC. You know, when Josh was in the cancer ward, one of the things that was really noticeable is that cancer is colorblind. It doesn't care if you're white or black or yellow or purple. It doesn't care if your parents are rich or poor or anything. And I think for Josh, he was truly shocked by how many kids were there, but their parents weren't because their parents couldn't afford to take the time off work. Some kids were just abandoned. One of the things that really came out when we started talking to the nurses is that a lot of the kids from really poor homes look forward to their treatments because they know that they will get 3 meals a day. And Joshy, in his last birthday party, asked everyone to bring a parcel of food for the kids for CHOC so that they could take that home and then at least get proper nutrition in between treatments, which is a way that you can dramatically improve the prognosis of someone if they're getting good nutrition. At school, they started a drone club in his name, so that Crawford College Santon has the Joshua Castle Drone Club, which I believe is bringing immense joy and excitement to both the teachers who run it and the kids who are involved in drone racing. And I know that Josh would have loved that idea that people were having fun in his name. And there's a ton of stuff that I can't remember. But I think for me, the best thing about it has been actually my faith and my optimism about young people. So not just Josh's 2 best friends, Manav and Prashant, but all kinds of people spent time with Josh when he was really sick. And I remember, to my immense shame, having a friend when I was in high school whose mother died of cancer, and I remember ending up just not being friends with her, mainly because I just didn't know what to say. And yet here were these kids prepared to hang out with Josh when he wasn't even awake, or he was too nauseous to even speak to them, and they just were there with him. And they have real conversations. And I think about Chris's friends, and they'd have real conversations. They have real conversations about what's going on in their lives, conversations I never, ever could have had as a 15 or 16-year-old. And I think of all the things those kids have done in his name, but mainly also just the comfort and friendship they showed Joshy and have shown me and Chris in the time that he died. I'm sorry, I'm emotional today. That gives me optimism. It gives me faith for the future. I have immense admiration for those kids. I just think they have a depth and a level of compassion and empathy that I never dreamt of. I never dreamt of having at that age. I never ever saw. Just looking for a tissue. I can't find one. in my corporate career, or even actually amongst the coaches who I worked with. So for me, those are the things I want to remember. I don't want us to spend the 18th thinking about how dreadfully sad it was that Josh died. I want to think about the amazing things and person that he was when he was alive, and the amazing things that people have done in his name, and just their way of showing up. For me, is remarkable and really worth celebrating. So even though I'm weepy and I don't look like I'm celebrating, I am. And I just want to thank those people and the cholangiocarcinoma community who looked after me and looked after Josh and looked after Shannon. They gave us advice. They told us what to ask the doctors, even offered to send us creams from overseas that aren't available in South Africa to ease some of Josh's symptoms. You have no idea how much kindness I received and Josh received in that year that he struggled. And I guess those are the things that I would like to remember. So, why am I anxious? Well, I guess this is one of the things that makes me anxious. It makes me anxious because if I go out and I see somebody who hasn't seen me in a while or who didn't know about Josh, they get like I am now. And the truth is, I don't have capacity to comfort somebody else right now. And I do think that is one of the things that is really stopping me venture out. I'm sure I told you about how I ventured out to the local shops, and there was somebody who hadn't seen me in a long time, and then she burst into tears, and I don't have capacity to comfort anyone else right now. I know I should, but I can't. So even the thought of someone coming to visit me sends me running for the tranquilizers. Even though I know that it's good for me to see other people, it still makes me really, really anxious. Anyway, sorry that it's not funny today. I see people coming on and hopping off the live, and I'm sorry it's not later for the people who finished work. But that is really the truth of what I have to say. Tomorrow will be a better day. We will bounce back and be filled with fun and life. And please, for the love of everything you hold dear, stop wishing us a Merry Christmas. If there is one thing that we are not at the moment as a family, it's merry. I'll talk to you tomorrow.